Hello everybody, welcome into RacerXOnline.com. I'm Kris Keefer, and something different for you guys today. We got the 2025 Beta 450 RX, but instead of going just to the local track, welcome to the high desert. You're in my backyard today, and we're gonna break this sucker down right here in my backyard because these are some of the tracks that I test on, I ride on. I ride right from the house, so I thought, drag Simon up to the high des. Let's do some testing up here. We got some wet dirt. We got a rough sand track, something different. I don't care what it is. I just want to do something different for you guys. I hear you guys' comments, so we are here today. We're going to break this sucker down and going to give you some information if the Beta 450 RX is worth it, and if it is an actual option for you guys out there to break away from your Austrian or your Japanese molds. Stay tuned. All right, guys, it wraps it up here in the backyard of the high des. What a day, man. So it's been a while since I actually did a media test out here, but since it rained, since I'm kind of burned out and everything Southern California as far as tracks, I was like, you know what, let's go to one of my sand tracks that I come to a lot. We do a lot of tire testing here. We do chassis testing, engine testing. It's really good for a lot of different types of things. So the track consists of, as you guys can see in the Insta360 video, is sand whoops, really square edge type stuff on the hard pack. So we got a mix of stuff here. So very familiar with a lot of different bikes on this track, and then grabbing the Beta, coming out here, man, 3-4 laps, I can just dissect a lot of different things. So first things first, what did Beta do to the 2025? There's not a lot of differences. Obviously, cosmetically, it's a little bit different. I will say, I was a little bit shocked when I picked it up from Rodney Smith over at Beta. I was like, wow, this thing is bright. But for me, I like a lot of bright colors, stuff that pops out. So my favorite color is orange, and this is kind of like an orangish red, I guess what you can call it. It's pretty neon. So for me, I think it's pretty attractive. I had this bike in the shop for a few days, and people that are walking by that are coming to the house, they're just like, man, that thing's a good looking bike. So first and foremost, good job, Beta, for creating a bike that stands out from everyone else, and it looks nice. So what they did is they changed the valving specs front to rear. Spring rates are the same. We also got rubber mounted bar mounts. If you go back to my video last year, I complained about vibration. Also, the battery itself has been changed to help the starting of this bike. So for me, that is also a plus. You don't want to be stranded out here in the desert or on the motocross track, and you don't want to be seen pushing that Beta off the track and then your buddies are making fun of you. It's just not a good thing. So that's it. They didn't do much to this bike, but the changes that they did make in the suspension actually work. So for me here, obviously you can run a stiffer setup out here just because of soft dirt, lots of pitching. The whoops are actually sharp on the bottoms. They have square edge underneath them. So you need a lot of hold up, but yet on this clay type stuff where it's choppy, you need some good comfort on that light stroke feel. So it is a little bit divey, but actually from last year, there is less pitching. So for me, I like that. I also think that the fork has a little bit more hold up in the shock. The shock seems to ride a little bit low. I'm at 102 right now. I wouldn't want to go any higher for a track like this. I'd probably drop it, but then that would actually make it a little bit worse as far as high speed compression. So I went in a little bit on the low speed and then slowed the rebound down for a track like this for sand. I will say that the bike sits pretty tall compared to other Japanese and Austrian models. When I got on it this morning and I just rode out here from the house, I just noted like it sat really tall. So it was a little bit of a foreign feeling for me. I'm not used to having a tall feeling bike. So I kept the fork at 5 millimeters. I tried a little bit of a different fork setting last time, about 3, and I didn't like it because for me, this bike sits tall, so it's hard to lean and hard to corner. I watched a couple of other different media testing videos from other outlets, and they said it turned really good. And for me, it's the opposite. So I had a good straight line feel on this bike, but for me, that initial area 1, that tip in, just is a little bit hard to get in. It's a little bit tough. Once you're in, it lays in really nice. Area 2, area 3, no problem. But that initial tip just seems like the bike is riding high, and I don't want to drop that fork and make it feel a little bit taller. So for me, I kept it at 5 millimeters, and that was a happy medium, and then stiffening up that compression helped a little bit on those heavy loads. So it did affect the square edge chop a little bit, but overall, the suspension is in a better direction. I would go a little bit stiffer, but for the normal consumer hopping on, I think it's a quite comfortable setting. So good job to the KYB guys as well as Beta for creating that. Second, chassis. This is a strange chassis for me. So straight line stability is great. Cornering, a little bit tough. Overall vibration is down from last year, and it has that chromoly steel stiffer type vibration feel as I'm riding out, or if you're riding out from the pits, or even me just riding out here to the track today. I did notice that on small bumps it feels quite stiff, but the good news is when you're riding it on the track, that doesn't come across. So for me, the chassis is quite comfortable compared to like a KTM or a Husqvarna gas chassis. So I think there's more comfort within this Beta chassis when you're trying to ride it hard, which is nice. But if you're cruising it and you're just play riding or just riding around on the trails, I feel like it's a little bit of a stiff feeling chassis. But nonetheless, it does have a little bit more vibration than the Japanese bikes. I would say it vibrates as much as a KTM, so it's not any worse or better, but it does feel like a chromoly steel vibration type feel. With the bar mounts and the rubber mounted system that they use this year, it does help that through the hands. So slap downs, first bump touch, I do notice a little bit better feeling through my hands, but overall through my feet, I still feel more vibration than the Japanese models. So for you guys that are steel framed riders, probably ain't gonna notice a thing. It'd probably just be like, it's just par for the course. So for me, chassis is quite good. If you're looking for stability, this is a nice chassis. If you're looking for a bike that corners, this may not be the bike, but like I said in all these videos, I would rather have a bike that has good straight line stability over cornering. Give me that all day. I don't want a bike that corners really good, because then these fast straightaways, these lean angle with you're trying to push across with your feet and cut across the track, those bikes that corner well are just twitchy, and I'm out. I don't want none of that. I want straight line stability, I want comfort underneath me, and I want that thing to be planted underneath me, and then I'll make this thing corner. Sure, we talked about it feels high, doesn't corner good, but let me work on that. If I'm the consumer, I'm buying this bike, I'd rather try to make my bike corner than the other way around. So I'm fine with that. Last thing about the engine. So I'm quite shocked about the engine. Again, I watched some other outlets, the videos on this bike, and they weren't too impressed with the engine. Again, I'm on the opposite end of that. I kind of like a short shifting engine. I like torque. This thing has torque. I've been riding the Triumph a lot, rode the Yamaha a lot, and the Kawasaki recently. Throttle response, low in, it's quite snappy. It's more snappy than the KX. It's snappier than the Triumph. Doesn't have that snap to the Yamaha, which is a good thing. I don't want all of that low in. So it has a nice blend of torque and low end RPM response, especially here in this deep condition today. It's wet, it's sandy. It's not gonna get out of control. It's not gonna pull out from underneath me. I like that. Yes, it doesn't like to be revved, but it is a 450. So when you buy a 450, you can't expect it to rev to the moon. Unlike a Yamaha where it revs out really high, I don't think I really need that. I like the short shift. I like to be in third gear. If I come out of a corner, I want to have some good traction to the ground. And this engine is that torquey, good feel. I will agree with Motocross Action where they're talking about mid-range. Josh was right. Josh said that there's a lot of mid-range, and I have to agree with that because within this engine, the mid-range pull is really, really nice, and I do like that. But I don't think that the over rev or the rev cut is that bad. I actually think that the rev cut is quite normal for a 450. When I do get up to the end of that over rev cut, it does fall off a little bit quicker than a Yamaha, but I'm fine with that. I'll just shift. So it's just telling you, hey man, we're not built to be up here. I'm built to be down here. And so you have to adapt your riding style to that, and it's not that hard to do. But overall, there's plenty of power. There's enough power to make me excited and happy as I'm just play riding and hopping over bumps. And Simon and I went out and we kind of messed around over some whoops and trying to hop over some of that stuff. there's plenty of power to do that, to make it feel light. So I do like that low-end RPM response, that mid-range RPM response, and that Tourquey feel that this engine brings. So I'm quite happy with that engine. Another thing about the engine, the shifting, I think last year I looked back on some of the things I mentioned. I know it was notchy. I didn't feel like it was notchy, but it does take a little bit of effort to get from second to third. You really got to force that shifter up for me. And also for the chassis portion, getting up towards the front of the bike, it is a little bit wide, girthy in the middle of the shrouds and the radiators. So although when you're sitting on it, it looks narrow, but when you're trying to lift your leg up in corners, there is this bend here in the shroud that's kind of girthy. So she's a big girl. So you just got to kind of pay attention to that when you're getting in the corners. You're going to have to lift your leg up a little bit differently. That's a little bit of a different feel from what I'm used to from the Japanese models. And Maxxis tires, although we have lots of traction here today, so I don't have a lot of complaints. It does feel stiff, like riding out here comparative to Dunlop, Bridgestone, even Pirelli's, the tires that I'm normally used to. It has that stiffer feeling carcass, so 12 pounds in the tires helps a little bit. But today when you have good traction, you have sand, the Maxxis tires worked well. But if it was me, I'd try to go to a different tire, maybe a Dunlop for here, MX-14 and the MX-3S front. So yeah, little things like that will actually help this bike a lot. Ergonomically, I do feel like I'm sitting tall, like I mentioned. The seat is nice and flat. The seat foam is nice on my rear end, which I like, but we have ape hangers for bars. Beta, if you're listening, can we get a different bend? You might want to get a little bit of a taller bend, but less sweep. This is a pretty straight bar, pretty low, but man, we are wide. So for me, I feel like I'm riding in Harley sometimes when I'm going down the straightaway. So I would narrow these things up, or easy fix, slap some Rentals on there. I would probably go with a Renthal 821, very similar to this bend, I would think. And then I would just cut those 821s down to 803, 804 millimeters. You can slap on some grips, you want lock-ons, whatever you guys want to do. But for me, first things first, if I'm bringing this thing home from the dealership, I'm going to a different bar, something that is not as long. So again, us test riders, we're picky SOBs, so I'm just kind of nitpicking here. We do have a map switch up on the handlebar pad, which is for me kind of not really good. It's not attractive. I think we should put that somewhere else. I understand why they do it. They're trying to clean up the bar area, which is nice, but what if we go to a different bar? Do I have to cut out the bar pad? Where are we putting this map switch? Am I taking it off? For me, I'm taking it off because I like the power, and there are two modes. The other mode is quite soft, feeling coming out of corners, and I don't really like that. So if it was me, I would just take that map switch off and then just put my bar pad on. But Beta, you might want to rethink that and put that on the bar somewhere, so if the customer gets that thing, they don't have to relocate this. Overall, I think this is a great bike. Last year, I probably wasn't too high on it. Honestly, they haven't did much changes to the engine, but now that I've ridden other bikes a lot more before I got on this Beta, I really got a good handle on what this thing is good at. And the thing's good at is being torquey, it's stable, and those are the two things that I really like in a 450. So I would try to cut down on vibration, get a little bit more damping feeling from the suspension, and maybe cut down just a little bit on the height of this overall machine. It does feel tall, so I would try to lower this bike a little bit and help it corner. But for me, good job to the guys at Beta for making a stable, fun motorcycle. It's another option for you guys out there. I can't believe how good a track like this is to test on. I love coming out here to test. You can feel a lot of different things from a motorcycle. I always wanted to come out here and do a shootout one day, so maybe we'll do that. But the downside is it's dry out here in the desert, so when we do get wet conditions, we try to take advantage of it. So hopefully you guys like something a little bit different. And if you like something different, Beta 450 RX. It's a damn good machine. I kind of like this thing. So I was actually shocked. Sometimes things shock me when I ride. I ride a lot. Not a lot of things shock me, but this actually shocked me today. So as Simon leaves here with the video camera and grabs the Jeep and leaves here, I'm gonna ride this thing a little bit. So I might take a little bit longer to get home today, Simon. So just know that. 12 issues, $30. You know what it is, Racer X magazine. Lots of cool things within that magazine that you guys can read that you can't read online. So go grab yourself 12 issues and get yourself a free gift. If you have any questions about this Beta that I didn't cover here, this is obviously a first impression. Kris at KeeferIncTesting.com. That's a long one. Kris with a K, not a C. So Kris at keeferinctesting.com. I'm happy to help you guys. It's a door for you guys to peek your head in. Kris, you in there? Hey, what's up? Ask away, ask a question. I'm here to help you guys. That's why I built this thing, so happy to help. We'll see you at the track or maybe out in the desert. See you guys later.